The massive warship hung in Earth's orbit, like a mountain made of metal and light. Commander Tar stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back, as he studied the blue planet below. The Galactic Empire had conquered thousands of worlds, and Earth would be no different. "These humans amuse me," Tar said to his second-in-command, Krell. "They sent a message claiming they have weapons we cannot comprehend. They speak of something called snipers." Krell's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among their species. "What primitive nonsense. Our shields can withstand plasma cannons and antimatter bombs. What could these humans possibly have?" The view screen flickered to life, showing a human diplomat. The man wore a simple suit and looked tired but determined. "Commander Tar, I am Secretary General Chen. We ask one final time. Leave our solar system peacefully. You dare make demands." Tar's voice boomed across the communication channel. "The Galactic Empire has claimed Earth. Surrender now, or we will demonstrate our power." Chen's expression didn't change. "We warned you about our snipers. You dismissed them. That was your first mistake." The communication ended abruptly. Tar turned to his weapons officer. "Fire a warning shot. Destroy their moon base." But before the order could be executed, something strange happened. The weapons officer suddenly collapsed, a small hole appearing in his helmet. Purple blood began pooling on the floor. "What happened?" Krell rushed to check the fallen officer. "There's a projectile wound, but our shields are active." Tar's 6 eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Nothing can penetrate our shields without triggering alarms." Another officer fell, then another. Each time, there was only silence. No energy discharge, no shield alerts, just sudden death. The bridge crew began to panic. "Where are the shots coming from?" Tar roared, his composure cracking. The science officer's tentacles danced over his console. "Unknown. Commander. I detect no energy weapons. No plasma signatures. Nothing our systems recognize as weapons fire." Through the view screen, Earth continued to rotate peacefully below them. The planet looked defenseless. Yet somehow, members of the most advanced military force in the galaxy were dying one by one. In a hidden bunker deep in the Rocky Mountains, Master Sergeant Sarah Chen, no relation to the Secretary General, lay perfectly still behind her rifle. The weapon didn't look like much to alien eyes. It was a refined version of humanity's ancient art of precision shooting, enhanced with technologies the aliens had never considered. "Target down," she whispered into her comm. Adjusting for next shot, her spotter, Corporal James Murphy, watched through advanced optics. "Bridge officer, 3 meters left of the commander. No shield fluctuation detected." Sarah's rifle wasn't firing energy beams or plasma bolts. It used specially designed projectiles that moved just below the speed that triggered standard Galactic Empire shield protocols. The aliens' shields were designed to stop fast-moving energy and particles, but humanity had discovered a gap in their defense. Objects moving at specific velocities in precise patterns could slip through like water through a net. "The beauty of kinetic weapons," Sarah murmured as she lined up her next shot. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The projectile left her rifle silently, traveling through space with deadly precision. The Empire's computers didn't even register it as a threat. It was too slow to be a railgun, too small to be a missile, too simple to be an energy weapon. The shield let it pass through without resistance. On the bridge, another officer crumpled. Tar had never felt fear in his centuries of conquest. But now something cold gripped his hearts. "Pull back. All ships pull back to maximum engagement range." The fleet began to move, but the deaths continued. No matter how far they retreated, the silent shots found their targets. The aliens couldn't understand how projectiles could reach them from Earth's surface at such distances, but humanity had spent decades perfecting orbital mechanics and atmospheric calculations. Lieutenant Colonel David Park watched from another location, this one in South Korea. His team had been practicing for years, preparing for the day when Earth might face a technologically superior foe. "Remember," he told his squad, They expect energy weapons and exotic particles. They built their entire defensive doctrine around advanced threats. But a well-placed bullet? That's been killing for thousands of years. His sniper, Specialist Kim Jung-ho, smiled grimly. Adjusting for orbital drift. Target acquired. The shot was perfect. On the Empire's flagship, the navigation officer fell forward onto his console. The ship lurched as dying hands hit random controls. Panic spread through the Galactic Empire's fleet like wildfire. They had conquered civilizations that could harness the power of stars, but they were being picked off by what their computers barely registered as weapons. The psychological effect was devastating. Soldiers who had faced plasma storms and antimatter explosions without flinching now flinched at every shadow. In orbit, smaller Empire dropships tried to descend to Earth's surface to locate the snipers. They never made it. Earth's snipers had prepared for this too. High-altitude specialists had been positioned around the globe, armed with rifles that could punch through the thinner armor of landing craft. Captain Isabella Rodriguez lay on a platform attached to a weather balloon floating at the edge of space. Her rifle was a masterpiece of human engineering, designed to function in near-vacuum conditions. She watched a dropship descending toward North America and gently squeezed her trigger. The projectile punched through the dropship's cockpit. Without pilots, the craft tumbled into the atmosphere and burned up. Isabella was already adjusting for her next target before the wreckage hit the ground. Commander Zeke Tar stood on his increasingly empty bridge, watching his mighty fleet being slowly dismantled by an enemy they couldn't see or understand. The Empire had always relied on overwhelming technological superiority, but the humans had found a blind spot in their defenses. "Commander," Krell said, his voice shaking, "we've lost 30% of our command staff. The fleet is requesting permission to retreat beyond lunar orbit." Zeke Tar's pride warred with his survival instinct. The Galactic Empire had never retreated from a pre-space flight civilization. But then again, no civilization had ever deployed weapons that their advanced systems simply couldn't detect or defend against. "How?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How are they doing this?" "How?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The view screen activated again, showing Secretary General Chen. But this time, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a woman in military fatigues. "Commander Zixtar," Chen said, "allow me to introduce General Patricia Williams, head of Earth's Strategic Sniper Command." General Williams stepped forward. She was older, her hair gray, but her eyes were sharp as any rifle scope. "Commander, you made the mistake many advanced civilizations make. You assumed that because we hadn't achieved faster-than-light travel, our weapons must be primitive. But we've had thousands of years to perfect the art of killing from a distance." She gestured to something off-screen, and the image changed to show a diagram. "Your shields are marvels of engineering. They stop 99.9% of all known weapons, but they were designed by species that abandoned kinetic weapons millennia ago. You forgot that sometimes, the simplest solution is the most effective." The diagram showed how the projectiles moved through the shields. "We studied every piece of technology you've used in your conquests. Your shields have a fatal flaw. They're calibrated to stop threats moving at certain velocities. Anything too slow is considered debris. Anything in a specific velocity range is ignored to prevent the shields from draining power by stopping cosmic dust." Zixtar felt his legs weaken. The humans had found a gap everyone else had missed. Not through superior technology, but through careful observation and adaptation of ancient techniques. "But the distance," Krell protested. "No projectile weapon could reach orbit with accuracy." General Williams almost smiled. "That's where you're wrong. We've been launching objects into precise orbits for over a century. We understand gravity, atmospheric conditions, and orbital mechanics better than you might expect. Each shot is calculated by computers, but executed by humans who have trained their entire lives for this moment." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Every sniper on Earth has been preparing for this day. We have thousands of them, positioned globally, each one capable of placing a shot within centimeters of their target, at ranges you consider impossible for kinetic weapons." Back in her mountain bunker, Sarah Chen watched through her scope as another alien officer fell. She felt no joy in the killing, only grim determination. Earth was her home, and she would defend it with every skill she had honed over decades of training. That's 47 confirmed, Murphy reported. Command estimates the Empire fleet has lost operational efficiency. Sarah nodded, already tracking her next target. The aliens were learning, trying to adapt, but it was too late. The psychological damage was done. They had come expecting to face energy weapons, and found themselves hunted by ghosts with rifles. On the flagship, chaos reigned. Officers refused to stand near viewports. Some had fashioned crude physical barriers, forgetting that the human projectiles could punch through their standard bulkheads. The mighty Galactic Empire, which had crushed civilizations capable of harnessing black holes, was being brought to its knees by refined versions of humanity's oldest weapons. Zeekstar made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All ships, emergency retreat. Fall back to the edge of the system. Sir? Krell couldn't hide his shock. The Empire never retreats. The Empire has never faced an enemy that turns our advantages against us, Zeekstar replied. Issue the order. As the fleet began to pull back, General Williams spoke again. Commander, this is your only warning. Leave our system and never return. Tell the Galactic Empire that Earth is protected by soldiers you cannot see, using weapons you cannot stop. We have no interest in your empire, but we will defend our home. The great warships turned and began accelerating away from Earth. As they fled, more officers fell to silent shots, a reminder that humanity's reach was longer than they had imagined. The siege of Earth had lasted less than 6 hours, and not a single human soldier had been seen by the invaders. In bunkers and hidden positions around the world, Earth snipers maintained their watch. They knew the Empire might return, might adapt, might find ways to counter their tactics. But for now, Earth stood unbroken, protected by patient guardians with steady hands and ancient wisdom. Secretary General Chen stood in the United Nations building, watching the alien fleet disappear into the darkness. General Williams, stand down the snipers but maintain surveillance. Yes, sir, though I think they'll need some time to process what just happened. Chen nodded. They came expecting to fight the future, and found we had mastered the past. Let's hope they spread the word. Earth may be young, but we are far from helpless. As night fell across the planet, humanity's hidden defenders remained at their posts. The Galactic Empire had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war, especially when that species has had time to study your weaknesses. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but on this day, the simple precision of a well-placed shot had proven mightier than all the advanced technology of a galactic civilization. Earth snipers had turned the tide not with exotic energy or impossible science, but with patience, skill, and the fundamental understanding that in war, the most effective weapon is often the one your enemy doesn't expect. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Empire's retreat. Earth's governments worked around the clock, knowing the aliens would return with countermeasures. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, the world's best minds gathered to prepare for the inevitable second encounter. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood before a holographic display showing the alien shield configurations. They'll adapt, she said to the assembled military leaders. The Empire didn't conquer half the galaxy by giving up after one defeat. When they return, those gaps in their shields will be closed. General Patricia Williams nodded grimly. Then we need to be ready with something new. What are our options? We've been developing variations, Doctor, Tanaka explained, manipulating the hologram. Multiple velocity patterns, rotating frequencies, and projectiles that change speed mid-flight. But we need our snipers to retrain on these new systems. Around the world, Earth's elite marksmen began intensive preparation. The first victory had bought them time, but everyone knew it was temporary. The Galactic Empire had never suffered such a humiliating defeat, and their response would be swift and brutal. In the Australian outback, Sergeant Michelle Thompson practiced with the new variable velocity rifle. The weapon could alter its projectile speed multiple times during flight, creating a pattern too complex for shields to predict. She fired at targets placed at increasing distances, each shot requiring calculations that pushed human ability to its limits. "It's like playing three-dimensional chess while riding a roller coaster," she muttered to her spotter, Private Jack Morrison. "You're getting the hang of it, though," Morrison replied, watching her latest shot curve around a simulated shield barrier to strike dead center. "That's 20 in a row," Thompson smiled tightly. "Won't matter if I can't do it when they're shooting back." Her words proved prophetic. Deep in space, beyond the solar system's edge, Commander Zeke's stood before the Galactic Empire's High Council. The holographic figures of the supreme leaders glowed with barely contained fury. "You fled from primitives," High Counselor Vexna snarled, her crystalline form pulsing with anger. "The Empire's reputation is in tatters. 16 systems are showing signs of rebellion. Believing us weak, they found a weakness we didn't know existed." Zeke's protested. "But I've analyzed their weapons. We can adapt our shields to stop these projectiles." "You will redeem yourself," another counselor commanded. "Take the Second Fleet. Admiral Corseth will accompany you with his new shield modifications. Burn Earth to glass if necessary, but show the galaxy that none can stand against the Empire." Zeke's bowed low. "It will be done." The Second Fleet was 3 times larger than the first. Admiral Corseth, a veteran of 100 campaigns, had spent every moment since the retreat studying the human weapons. His new shield design created overlapping layers calibrated to stop any physical projectile, regardless of speed. "Let them try their tricks now," Corseth said, as the fleet entered Earth's system. "I've eliminated every gap, every weakness. Their primitive weapons are useless." On Earth, alarms sounded as the massive fleet appeared. General Williams stood in the command center, watching the displays with grim determination. "They're back, and they brought friends." "Shield analysis complete," Dr. Tanaka reported. "They've adapted. Standard kinetic penetration is no longer viable." Williams activated the global communication system. "All sniper teams, initiate Protocol 7. I repeat, Protocol 7 is active. In hidden locations worldwide, Earth's defenders switched to their new weapons. These weren't just refined rifles anymore. Humanity had combined their ancient art with every piece of technology they could devise. Master Sergeant Chen checked her new equipment. The rifle was similar in appearance but contained innovations that would have seemed like magic decades earlier. "Quantum bullets," she said, loading the specialized ammunition. "Who would have thought we'd be shooting probability waves at aliens?" The quantum projectiles existed in multiple states simultaneously until impact, making them impossible for shields to fully block. Some would be particles, some waves, some both. The shields couldn't calibrate for all possibilities at once. The first test came quickly. A squadron of Empire fighters descended toward major cities. Confident in their improved defenses, Captain Rodriguez, now stationed on a mountain peak in Chile, took aim at the lead fighter. Her rifle hummed with barely contained energy as she fired. The projectile left the barrel as a standard bullet but began shifting states as it traveled. The Empire's shields tried to adapt, fluctuating rapidly to match the changing threat, but they couldn't match every possibility. One version of the bullet phased through, solidifying inside the fighter's cockpit. The craft spiraled out of control, crashing into the Pacific Ocean. Rodriguez was already targeting the next fighter, her quantum rounds making mockery of the improved shields. Admiral Corseth watched the tactical display in disbelief. "Impossible. The shields are perfect, but perfection against one type of attack meant nothing when the humans kept changing the rules." All around Earth, snipers engaged with weapons that defied conventional understanding. Some used bullets that split into countless microscopic fragments, overwhelming shield processors. Others fired rounds that generated localized electromagnetic pulses, briefly creating their own gaps to exploit. In New Zealand, Corporal Patricia Ng used a rifle that fired bullets wrapped in stolen Empire shield technology. The projectiles carried tiny shield generators that matched the frequency of the Empire's defenses, allowing them to pass through like a key in a lock. Their own technology, turned against them, she whispered, as another Empire dropship fell from the sky. The second fleet found itself in a worse position than the first. Not only were the humans still hitting them with impunity, but now they couldn't predict what type of attack would come next. Morale plummeted as officers fell to weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics. High above Earth's atmosphere, Lieutenant Colonel Park coordinated the global response. Team 7. Switch to gravitic rounds. Team 3. Maintain quantum fire. Keep them guessing. The gravitic rounds were perhaps humanity's most audacious creation. They manipulated microgravity fields around themselves, essentially falling through space-time in ways that bypassed normal matter. Shield or no shield, the bullets arrived at their destination by taking routes through dimensions the Empire hadn't considered protecting. On the Empire flagship, chaos reigned supreme. Admiral Corseth himself fell to a gravitic round that seemed to appear inside his brain, without passing through the space between. Zixtar, who had barely survived the first engagement, found himself in command of a fleet that was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they couldn't see or understand. "Sir, we're detecting something new," a terrified sensor operator reported. "The humans are launching something from multiple locations." Zixtar studied the readings. "Those aren't projectiles. They're too large, moving too slowly." His confusion turned to horror as he realized what he was seeing. The humans hadn't just developed new bullets, they had created delivery systems that boggled the mind. High-altitude balloons carrying sniper teams were rising to the edge of space, bringing the marksmen closer to their targets. Sarah Chen floated in near-zero gravity, her rifle modified for vacuum operations. Through her scope, she could see individual Empire soldiers through the windows of their ships. The distance was still immense, but without atmospheric interference, her shots were even more precise. "I've got visual on their backup command center," Murphy reported, his voice crackling through the radio. "Marking targets." Chen fired, her quantum round crossing the void in seconds. Inside the Empire cruiser, the backup commander simply ceased to exist. As probability collapsed around him, the psychological effect on the crew was immediate and devastating, but humanity's true innovation was yet to be revealed. Deep in underground bunkers, teams had been working on something that pushed the boundaries of what could be considered a sniper weapon. Dr. Tanaka called it the temporal rifle, a weapon that fired bullets through time as well as space. Specialist Kim Jung-ho was the first to use it in combat. He aimed at an Empire destroyer and pulled the trigger. The bullet disappeared, traveling backward through time to arrive at the target location moments before the ship's shields activated. From the Empire's perspective, their officers were being shot before the humans had even fired. "This is insane," Kim muttered, watching through his scope as confusion spread through the Empire fleet. "We're shooting them yesterday." The temporal rifle had limitations. It could only send projectiles back a few minutes, and the energy cost was enormous. But the psychological impact was worth every joule. The Empire forces found themselves under attack from bullets that had been fired in their future, making defense not just difficult but conceptually impossible. Admiral Corseth's replacement, a younger commander named Jaxtor, tried desperately to maintain order. "All ships, random shield fluctuations. If they can't predict our defenses, they can't bypass them." It was a clever idea, but humanity had anticipated this too. Machine learning algorithms analyzed the random patterns in real time, finding momentary weaknesses and transmitting targeting data to snipers worldwide. What seemed random to the Empire was just another pattern to decode. In orbit, the specialized high-altitude teams continued their deadly work. Captain Thompson, now floating in a specially designed pod, used a rifle that fired smart bullets. Projectiles with limited AI that could adjust their path mid-flight to exploit shield gaps that existed for microseconds. "Target acquired," she whispered, watching an Empire general through her scope. The smart bullet would wait in space if necessary, orbiting until the perfect moment to strike. She fired, and the projectile began its patient hunt. It circled the enemy ship like a predator, analyzing shield patterns and waiting. 3 minutes later, It found a gap lasting 0.003 seconds and struck with lethal precision. The Empire's second fleet was in full retreat, but the humans weren't finished. From hidden silos, Earth launched its most ambitious weapons, yet orbital sniper platforms. These automated systems took the human sniper concept to its logical extreme. Patient, precise weapons that could wait in space for days or weeks, choosing the perfect moment to strike. Each platform carried hundreds of specialized rounds and advanced targeting systems. They dispersed throughout the solar system, creating a lethal net that would make future invasions costly beyond measure. General Williams watched the Empire fleet flee with mixed emotions. They had won again. But at what cost? Earth had revealed capabilities that would make them a target for every aggressive species in the galaxy. "Ma'am," an aide reported, "we're intercepting Empire communications." "They're calling for the Grand Fleet." Williams nodded. She had expected this. The Grand Fleet was the Empire's ultimate weapon, 1,000 ships, led by their most experienced commanders. But Earth's snipers had proven twice now that numbers meant nothing when you couldn't see your enemy. "Begin Operation Longshot," she ordered. "It's time to take this fight to them." Around the world, volunteers stepped forward for humanity's most dangerous mission yet. They would board small, stealth craft and travel to the Empire's staging areas, not to fight directly, but to position themselves where they could do what snipers did best: wait for the perfect shot. Master Sergeant Chen was among the first to volunteer. "We've shown them we can defend Earth," she said. "Now let's show them we can reach them anywhere." The stealth ships launched quietly, carrying humanity's best marksmen into the depths of space. Each sniper carried weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics, but more importantly, they carried the patient determination that had made humanity's warriors feared throughout history. As the Empire's second fleet limped home, spreading tales of bullets that defied reality and enemies that killed from impossibly far away, Earth prepared for the next phase. The galaxy would learn that humans had not survived thousands of years of warfare by being predictable. In the command center, General Williams studied intelligence reports about the Grand Fleet. A normal military would despair at the odds, but Earth's snipers had already proven that with the right position, the right weapon, and the right timing, even a single human could change the course of galactic history. "They still don't understand," she said to Dr. Tanaka. "They keep thinking in terms of fleets and armies. But war isn't about who has the biggest gun. It's about putting the right bullet in the right place at the right time." Tanaka nodded. "And we've gotten very good at that." As Earth's hidden defenders prepared for the greatest challenge yet, one truth echoed through the ranks. The Galactic Empire had made the fatal mistake of underestimating humanity's oldest military art. Now they would learn why, throughout human history, the sniper's bullet had been the most feared weapon on any battlefield. The Grand Fleet of the Galactic Empire stretched across space like a metal storm cloud. 1,000 warships, each carrying weapons that could crack moons, moved in perfect formation toward Earth. At its head, Supreme Admiral Zar Khan stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, a ship so vast it had its own weather systems. "Tell me again about these human snipers," Zar Khan said to Zixtar, who had been demoted to advisor after his failures. The Supreme Admiral was ancient even by Empire standards, his body more machine than flesh after centuries of warfare. "They use projectile weapons that exploit shield weaknesses," Zixtar explained for the 100th time. "They've developed variations we couldn't predict. Quantum bullets, temporal shots, gravitic rounds." Zarkon's mechanical eyes whirred as they focused. "Projectiles. After all our advancement, we're threatened by thrown rocks." He turned to his chief engineer. "Show me the new defenses." The engineer activated a hologram showing ships covered in overlapping shield layers, physical armor, and point defense systems. "We've created the ultimate defense, Supreme Admiral. 17 shield layers, each operating on different principles. Reactive armor that can withstand any kinetic impact. Point defense lasers that can vaporize any projectile within 50 kilometers. And we've added something special. Predictive defense algorithms that calculate all possible attack vectors and preemptively block them. And if the humans have developed new weapons? Zeekstar asked quietly. Zarkon's laugh was like grinding gears. Then we'll crush them with numbers alone. 1,000 ships, each carrying 10,000 warriors. Let them try to snipe 10 million targets. Unknown to the Grand Fleet, humanity's stealth ships had already reached their destination. The small craft, each no larger than a shipping container, attached themselves to asteroids and debris fields along the fleet's path. Inside, Earth snipers prepared for the longest shots in human history. Master Sergeant Chen floated in her tiny compartment, checking her equipment one final time. The rifle beside her was humanity's latest creation, something the scientists called a probability lance. It didn't fire bullets in any conventional sense. Instead, it manipulated probability itself, making unlikely events certain. All teams, check in. General Williams' voice crackled across the quantum communicator. Team 1, positioned in the Kuiper Belt, ready. Team 2, hidden in Asteroid Field 7, ready. One by one, 30 teams reported their positions. They were scattered across millions of kilometers, but each had calculated firing solutions for when the Grand Fleet passed through their zones. Remember, Williams said, this isn't about destroying their fleet. It's about sending a message they can't ignore. Make every shot count. The Grand Fleet approached Earth with supreme confidence. Their sensors showed empty space. The human stealth technology was good, but not perfect. They could detect faint energy signatures that might be ships, but at distances so extreme that no weapon could possibly reach them. Supreme Admiral, a sensor operator reported, we're detecting minimal human presence. A few dozen small craft at most, scattered beyond effective weapon range. Zarkon's mechanical face attempted a smile. They've given up. They know they cannot stop us. Begin the final approach to Earth. That's when Specialist Kim Jung-ho, floating in space 30 million kilometers away, looked through his scope and gently squeezed his trigger. The probability lance hummed, consuming enough power to run a small city. Reality rippled around the weapon's barrel as it fired not a bullet, but a targeted impossibility. On the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Admiral Zarkan was reviewing invasion plans when something extraordinary happened. Every atom in his mechanical heart simultaneously decided to move 3 centimeters to the left. The probability of this occurring naturally was so infinitesimal that scientists couldn't calculate it, but the probability lance made the impossible inevitable. Zarkan looked down in confusion at the hole in his chest, then collapsed. Around him, his staff stared in shock. Their leader hadn't been shot. He had been edited out of reality in a small but fatal way. Medics! Someone screamed, but it was too late. The Supreme Admiral of the Grand Fleet was dead, and no one could explain how. Across the fleet, similar impossible events occurred. A navigation officer's brain decided to become a perfect sphere. A weapons controller's blood spontaneously crystallized. An engineer's lungs filled with metal that hadn't existed seconds before. Each death was unique, impossible, and unstoppable. Captain Thompson, positioned on the opposite side of the solar system, used a different weapon. The causal rifle fired bullets that existed backwards through cause and effect. The bullet hit the target first, then the rifle fired, then she decided to pull the trigger. The Empire's predictive algorithms went insane trying to block attacks that had already happened. That's 15 confirmed paradox kills, her spotter reported. Their computers are starting to malfunction from trying to process the impossibilities. The Grand Fleet's perfect formation began to dissolve. Ships collided as pilots died in ways that defied physics. The 17 layers of shields meant nothing when the attacks weren't coming through normal space. The reactive armor couldn't react to threats that had already occurred. The point defense lasers fired at empty space, trying to destroy bullets that existed in parallel realities. On Earth, Dr. Tanaka watched the chaos through long-range sensors. It's working better than we hoped. Their entire defensive doctrine assumes attacks follow the laws of physics. General Williams nodded grimly. We're not winning through superior firepower. We're winning by changing the rules of engagement. In deep space, Master Sergeant Chen prepared her most ambitious shot yet. Intelligence had identified the Grand Fleet's command ship, where the Empire's War Council was meeting. It was protected by hundreds of vessels and shield layers so thick that conventional weapons couldn't scratch it. But Chen wasn't using conventional weapons. She loaded a special round into her probability lance, something the scientists called a cascade bullet. Instead of causing one impossible event, it would trigger a chain reaction of increasingly unlikely occurrences. Probability calculations complete, Murphy reported. If this works, it'll be the longest successful sniper shot in history. 47 million kilometers. Chen took a breath she didn't need in the vacuum of her pod. Through her scope, enhanced with quantum entanglement technology, she could see the enemy command ship as clearly as if it were meters away. She found her zen, that perfect moment of stillness that snipers had sought for millennia, and fired. The cascade bullet began its journey as a simple projectile. But each nanosecond brought new impossibilities. It phased through 7 dimensions, existed in 12 places simultaneously, and arrived at its destination before it was fired. But that was just the beginning. On the Empire command ship, a cleaning drone spontaneously achieved sentience and decided to clean the inside of the main power core. This caused a fluctuation that shouldn't have mattered, except that at that exact moment, a cosmic ray that had traveled for 1 billion years struck a specific molecule in the shield generator. The combination created a resonance that opened a microscopic gap in the defenses for exactly 0.0000001 seconds. The cascade bullet was waiting for that gap. It slipped through and struck a decorative crystal in the war room. The crystal shattered in a pattern that created a sound wave at precisely the frequency to rupture every Empire officer's auditory organs simultaneously. As they clutched their heads in agony, the sound wave reflected off the walls, growing stronger, until it found the resonant frequency of the ship's antimatter containment system. The command ship exploded in a flash that could be seen from Earth. The explosion triggered a chain reaction as debris struck other vessels, their damaged shields failing in cascade. Within minutes, the center of the Grand Fleet was gone, victim to a single bullet that had made the impossible probable. The remaining Empire forces froze in shock. They had come with the greatest fleet ever assembled, protected by defenses that could stop any conceivable weapon. But humanity hadn't used conceivable weapons. They had weaponized impossibility itself. All Empire forces, a terrified voice broadcast across their fleet. The humans, they're not firing weapons. They're firing mathematics. They're shooting us with broken physics. Panic spread through the Grand Fleet like wildfire. Officers refused to leave armored bunkers. But the bunkers offered no protection from attacks that didn't follow the rules. Some ships fired blindly into space, hoping to hit the hidden snipers. But how could they target enemies millions of kilometers away? Lieutenant Colonel Park watched from his position near Neptune. His team had been holding their most devastating weapon in reserve, the entropy rifle. It didn't destroy matter or energy. Instead, it redistributed entropy in targeted areas, aging specific components thousands of years in seconds. Target the flagship's main reactor, Park ordered. Let's show them that time is just another dimension to attack through. The shot traveled through space, carrying concentrated entropy like a disease. When it struck the Empire flagship, nothing seemed to happen at first. Then the reactor began to age rapidly. Metal corroded, seals degraded, and components that should have lasted centuries crumbled to dust in moments. The reactor didn't explode. It simply stopped working, leaving the massive warship drifting powerlessly. Back on Earth, world leaders watched in amazement as humanity's snipers dismantled the greatest military force in the galaxy without revealing themselves. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical damage. The Empire had built their entire identity on technological superiority, and humans had turned their technology into a liability. General Williams, Secretary General Chen said over the secure channel, "The Empire is requesting communication. They want to negotiate." Williams allowed herself a small smile. "Put them through, but continue operations until we have agreement." The view screen showed a battered Empire admiral, one of the few senior officers still alive. His 6 eyes darted constantly, expecting death at any moment. "Humans," he said, his voice shaking. "We offer surrender. Please, stop these impossible attacks. We'll leave your system and never return." "Not good enough," Williams replied coldly. "You'll declare Earth and a radius of 50 light-years as forbidden territory to all Empire forces. You'll share your shield technology so we can develop new counters. And you'll spread word throughout the galaxy. Earth snipers can reach anyone, anywhere, at any time." That's unprecedented. No species has ever demanded such terms from the Empire. As if to emphasize the point, another Empire officer fell to an impossible shot. This time, his skeleton decided to become magnetic, pulling every metal object in the room into a deadly storm. "Those are our terms," William said. "Accept them, or we'll continue demonstrating new ways to break physics until your entire fleet is gone." The Admiral's shoulders sagged in defeat. "We accept. By all the stars, we accept. Just, please, make it stop." Williams nodded to her staff, and the order went out. "All sniper teams, cease fire. Maintain positions and readiness." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenders lowered their impossible weapons but kept watch. They had done more than defend Earth. They had shattered the Galactic Empire's aura of invincibility. In the weeks that followed, the Empire kept their word. Their battered fleet retreated beyond the Forbidden Zone, and diplomatic channels spread word of Earth's terrifying new defenders. Species that had cowered before the Empire began to rebel, knowing that the humans had shown the giant could bleed. Master Sergeant Chen finally returned to Earth after months in space. As she stepped out of decontamination, Murphy was waiting with a grin. "So, think they'll try again?" Chen shook her head. "Not in our lifetimes. We didn't just beat their fleet. We broke their understanding of how war works. They'll spend centuries trying to figure out how to defend against weapons that don't follow the rules." General Williams stood before the United Nations, delivering her final report on the conflict. "We faced an enemy with every technological advantage, overwhelming numbers, and the experience of 1,000 conquests. We defeated them not through matching their strength, but by refusing to fight on their terms." She paused, looking at the assembled leaders. "Earth snipers have shown the galaxy that we will not be victims. We've taken humanity's oldest military skill and evolved it beyond recognition. Let this be our message to any who would threaten us. We are the species that can kill you with impossibility itself. From distances you cannot comprehend, using methods you cannot defend against." In hidden bunkers and secret facilities, Earth snipers continued their vigil. They had new weapons to master, new impossibilities to explore. The Galactic Empire had thought them primitive for using projectile weapons. They had learned too late that humanity had not abandoned bullets. They had transformed them into something that defied understanding. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it now knew one truth. Earth snipers could reach anywhere, strike anyone, and turn the very laws of physics into weapons. The planet that had seemed helpless had proven to be the deadliest world in the galaxy, protected by patient guardians who had elevated marksmanship into an art form beyond alien comprehension. As the sun set over Earth, children played in parks and families gathered for dinner, unaware of the invisible shield of impossibility that protected them. In the depths of space, the wreckage of the Grand Fleet drifted as a monument to the folly of underestimating humanity. The Galactic Empire had dismissed Earth snipers. That dismissal had cost them everything. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, a human sniper smiled and whispered the marksman's creed. One shot, one kill. No matter the distance, no matter the defense, no matter the laws of physics themselves.